Welcome to Rauta. This video is done in commercial collaboration with our sponsor, Steelfest. Hello and welcome to Rauta's Reviews. This time we're gonna tackle the biggest metal band out there in the world called Metallica. Now by this day, probably everybody and their family, the moms and aunts and whatever, have an opinion about the latest Metallica album. So I really don't know what kind of additional take and can really take on the new Metallica album. I mean, 72 Seasons is one of those albums that's gonna just make some major waves. Not necessarily because it's quality, but just because it's Metallica. And obviously kind of given that everybody is keen to say whatever they think about the new album. Everybody has an opinion and of course everybody is entitled to. As much as me and the next guy. Because why the hell not? What is very curious, however, is that when I was checking out, for example, Metal Archives earlier today, for actually, yeah, today, for some reviews because I knew they were coming already a couple of days ago. It was funny. Already by now, eight reviews, and most of the albums, obviously, from any kind of band don't have reviews at all. But this is the kind of a band that everybody wants to put their word out. And actually, I was originally just going to skip it. First of all, I don't get the physical copy here. Secondly, I mean, everybody already knows what they are thinking about Metallica. Not everybody though, because it seems like last stream I was asked to, hey, could you review latest Metallica album? Like, why not? I mean, I've been a fan of the band since, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s. I wasn't exactly a kid when I heard the Metallica, like, for real, like, becoming a fan. Probably heard some song here or there, but it was actually still one of those, teenager highlights for me. So it's definitely a band I grew up with, and especially those four first albums, they meant so much for me. I guess I really should say five first albums, even though later days then again sold Black Album away because well it's good, it's just something that I don't really need as a physical copy. Good is not exactly as great as great. And those four albums, first four albums, they are life defining for me. However, that being said, whenever well, not whenever, but when Metallica kind of started to mature, when they kind of started their new era, and I would say it started with the Black Album Metallica in 1991, the band started to change, and I remember being already, kind of disappointed, like big time with Load, and then didn't have good expectations for Reload and all that stuff. I mean, Saint Anger, I'm one of the people who say that Saint Anger is it's not exactly a good album. It's something that I didn't like back in the days, and never grew up on me. I never just even wanted to go back. Dead Magnetic then again was actually quite good, but just way too lengthy. And ever since, there has been a massive amount of these live albums. I don't want just gonna go through them, but for example, Hardwired was something that Hardwired to Self-Destruct was that I just only heard some of the single songs. I figure out maybe it's not my cup of tea. It didn't really even arrive for review, and I was like, yeah, like who cares? Metallica is too big to even to be reviewed in a way. But here I am doing 72 Seasons review, and having it listened to a few times now, I'm like, what really to think about it? I wasn't very much like in hurry to listen to it right away. Like when people like, hey, have you been listening to it? It just came out today. Like, what's your opinion? And blah blah blah. And I was like, I'm not in a hurry. I'm not gonna review it. And day later, I changed my opinion because well, people wanted to hear my opinion. And my opinion doesn't weigh more than yours or the next guy's. I'm just me rambling about it a little bit here. So I don't even try to make this like a formal review, like start from this and that and go through different elements. I'm just gonna go like, going to explain what I feel about it after a few listens and what made it sound good and what are the points that kind of disappointed me. Now, I still have this saying from a friend of mine, which I think is kind of a philosophical take. Like people are only disappointed because of their expectations. So when you don't really have expectations, you really can't be disappointed, nor anything of that sort. But obviously, we are kind of hardwired to have expectations. When a lot of people say like, yeah, I don't get this and that because I don't have expectations, that's kind of a bullshit. People always expect something. It can be as well as bad as good thing. And so I was thinking roughly this could be something along like 7 out of 10 album, like having some cool riffs here and there and good songs and all that stuff, but not exactly being like, wow, now Metallica is back for real and they're back for good. I mean, they never went away. And I've seen them live along the years a few times and I know they're killer good live. But with the recent albums, I mean, including that Magnetic, they really haven't been the thing for me like 30 years. They just kind of, I know, changed too much, matured too much. Maybe I didn't, I don't know. And of course, bands and artists are kind of, they're allowed to change. They're allowed to do what the hell they want. And it's not like Metallica's alone with these things. First of all, like maturing their sound and also making this mammoth of album. This is almost 80 minutes. Uh, the same thing also applies to bands like Iron Maiden. So I think this is more like some grand old dudes, like some veterans, some like people getting ready to retire are suddenly making these massive albums. I mean, past two Iron Maiden albums also something like 80 minutes, and Metallica, well, doing exactly the same thing. And the funny thing is that not only these are the two biggest metal bands in the world, and not only they are doing these super lengthy albums, they're also both doing very, very lengthy songs. And that's the first thing I want to start with. This is one of the most basic problems with me with 72 seasons. It's an amount of, not amount the tracks, it's amount the kind of overextending, like, hey, okay, you can have riffs for like 4 minute songs and then you keep going for like 7, 8, 9 minute song or whatever. And it's like, it's too much. Um, and when you have that, it's gonna just kind of grind you down in a way that you're like, I'm not enjoying it anymore. It's like having some XXL size family pizza, and you're just like, I'm gonna only eat a pizza that's enough for me. And by the time you're done with and you're like stuffing and all that stuff, you just start hating, even if it's a 5-star pizza. Obviously, you don't throw it away. You just, I don't know, stash it in your fridge. But the point here is, even the best things can get quite boring. Even when you're making love to somebody and you just like, okay, this is just making me numb. I'm not gonna enjoy it anymore. Like, let's just put the pants on and do something else. The same thing applies with over lengthy movies or TV shows. Just keep going and going and going and nothing is really happening. And eventually, like, screw it, I got better things to do. That's the basic problem with 72 seasons. That's not the only problem though, but I think the major one. The second is there are lots of filler riffs. There are lots of those parts where you just feel like Hetfield, Hammett, why? I mean, there are lots of also good riffs. Like for example, when the first single, rolled out, looks at Terna, I was like, wow, this is something very energetic, very powerful coming from Metallica. Like it only 3 minutes, 25 seconds. Like, wow, are they really back to doing short and sweet songs, which are like, boom, nailed it, and moving on. That was really, really good side. And I think that song is still good. It's not great as the old albums, but something very refreshing compared to what these guys have been doing for so many years now. Then came the second single and the third one. Like, now they're doing it again. They're doing once again those 7, 8 minute songs and like, just wake me up when the song is kind of down because I really don't have the energy for it. And yeah, that pretty much sums up the whole deal here. If only these guys would focus on what's making impact, not exactly starting to grind, and I'm not referring to grind core here, just kind of a daily grind, then this album would be really good. The best of the riffs here are not exactly good enough to challenge the best of Metallica, but they are good enough to like say, yeah, I'm liking this one. Now, this album is pretty much as full of those good riffs as full of those really mediocre, lukewarm ones. The ones that you kind of want to skip over and, move on. But obviously, if you would do that, you are not exactly listening to an album. And I don't think that Metallica should be doing some kind of a TikTok shit where you just like cut it into middle pieces or just go fast forward with the songs and all that stuff. So obviously you're kind of a, bound with the whole deal here, and you either like it or you don't, but that it is what it is. Now, of the good side still, I would say James Hetfield still has that nice tone to his voice. It's not like he's not getting older with it at all. However, some of those cleaner parts, and there are some, it feels like, James, please don't go there. It's not like you're a bad vocalist because you're not. It's just like that stuff doesn't really fit you. It's almost like you could do some kind of a rapping. And I would say, no, James Hetfield, please don't let Metallica slide into some hip hop show. So there are parts where the vocals are like, yes, it's James Hetfield doing what James Hetfield can. And then there are moments like, no, please don't do it. Don't go there. Uh, for the drums, I mean, everybody knows that Lars Ulrich is the most bashed metal drummer in the world, and sometimes I feel like, why? I mean, come on, he's maybe not the best, but he has his own signature style. It's one thing if you don't like it, but it's not like he's a horrible drummer. Actually, just listen to some old shit and you're like, hey, he can really does do his shit and all that stuff. And in my opinion, he does just actually good work here. It's nothing outstanding, but like, it's not like raising my eyebrows like like asking, what the hell is he doing? He's doing it fine. And I gotta say, the snare sound is solid. It's one of those details that like, yes, I like it. It's kind of a having the impact, but not sounding too plastic, if you know what I mean. So it is kind of a, if you know the snare drum, how it's built, you have those kind of metal wires underneath, which gives this kind of sound. And that's in a very, very well balanced way here. And I know a lot of drummers sometimes struggle with like, what's the perfect snare sound? Some want the more kind of a plastic sound where it's like a really tight, like almost like if you're banging some kind of a plastic bucket. And some just want it more, I don't know, more loose sound where it's less plastic and more just kind of a metal tone to it. Here I would say it's one of those things which I really liked from the very first listening. Guitar sound is a little bit on the verge, like it's kind of okay, but maybe you should have gone to Black Album. And bass is not as powerful as I kind of hoped. It's way too much on the background, and sometimes I like, how come you are wasting a guy like Robert Trujillo? Because that guy can play, and having a little bit more bassy approach could have actually added a layer here, which we could have then, I don't know, help to tolerate this lengthy of the songs. Now I'm going with a lot of stupid details here, but they are important when we're talking about this kind of veteran band, where every fucking detail is very, very important, especially when you come to understand that this band has been around for over 40 years. 40 years, lots of live shows and tours and becoming the biggest. So when we're talking about the biggest, we need to understand what's going, so say, under the hood. It's not just about band doing good songs. Like in a lot of bands, you can just say these are good because they have the riffs and the songs and the blah 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 riffs, or production is solid. Get away from here. And then there are these songs which you just kind of have to like dissect into small bits like a Lego bricks, and you kind of have to disassemble it all and figure like, okay, so this is how the machine was built. And in my opinion, 72 Seasons is built a little bit weird ways. So a lot of things are nicely happening here, especially with the details like vocals and snare sound and stuff like that. And then some things make you puzzle and wonder, why did you decide to go that way? Like, what's wrong with your brain? No, joking aside, there's so many things which I like on this album, and then there's so many things which kind of left me disappointed. Like I say, I was expecting some kind of a 7 out of 10, pretty decent of an album, like Death Magnetic, for example. I would have to tone down this a little bit closer to 6.5. I know it's a nitpick, and some would say, what's the difference really? The difference is this. Well, 7 is kind of like, yes, it's almost there. Like, it's almost good album, but it's not. And 6.5 is closer to that lukewarm mediocrity where you're like, it's almost a decent album, but it's not great. But then again, those some of the good parts, the better parts, actually make it worthwhile than just 6 out of 10. Nitpicking, I know, so don't give a damn about scores. More like, if only you would listen to this one, and then you would figure out how I am able to remove some 50% of it. So this album could have been really great 37 minutes of an album. Like if you would remove half the fat and focus on that lean meat, and it would be like, man, now it's time to barbecue, now it's time to celebrate. Really good Metallic album. But mammoth is what mammoth is, and by this time they are this kind of woolly mammoth, big and way too old for the game. But you kind of still get to appreciate all the beauty of the woolly mammoth hair, the fur, those long tusks, and just like this band is going to go extinct. There won't be another Metallica like ever again. Those new bands are just something different. So you are at the same time a little bit sad that it's not going to make your next Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightnings and Justice for Alls and or not to mention Kill 'Em All. But then you kind of also realize there are some nice moments, like that Lux Eterna song, which is kind of like giving you a little bit of hope. So, on the verge of being, do I really enjoy it and do I not? Unfortunately, I'm more like I'm not enjoying it that much. I'm not buying this, and most likely I'm not coming back to this for years and years to come, listening on streaming services. Maybe eventually I will come back to kind of refresh my memory. But then again, have I really done it with Tech Magnetic either? The thing is, I haven't. So it's not very unlikely that this will be any kind of a future banger for me because I'm not enjoying this that much. Now, is it worth giving a shot? At least for a few songs. Then you know what everybody is talking about. Then you can figure it out by yourself whether you like this or not. Because I know there are people who are like saying, this is a really good album, this is worth buying, this is something that you would enjoy. And then there are people who are saying like, who gives a damn? Metallica has gone shite years and years ago. Don't don't care about it. Don't want to listen to it. And me, I'm going in the middle. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. It's listenable, but unfortunately quite forgettable. So here's my lengthy review. Feel free to hate, feel free to share, feel free to disagree, agree, whatever. I don't really care. It's your opinion that matters. Whether you like this album or not, that's beyond my game. So give it a chance or give it not. No, at least you know what I'm thinking about it. I hope it made your life better or day better or whatever. And if you didn't, hey, too bad you wasted your time. See you soon with more reviews coming your way. Bye bye.